Hey listeners, you're listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. Grab some tea, a midnight snack, and cuddle up in bed as we dive deep into today's most popular fantasies, sci-fi, and mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Lily.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Christy.
This season we'll be discussing the heart-pounding military fantasy that's part Hunger Games and part How to Train Your Dragon. That's right, grab your flight jacket, we're headed to Besgaeth.
A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A reader without their book, or this podcast, is dead. Welcome to the revolution. My best advice, don't die, and don't worry, we most likely won't eat our allies.
In this episode, we'll be discussing Onyx Storm chapters 13 through 22, where Violet's royal pain-in-the-ass ex makes his on-page debut and Quest Squad undertakes their first mission beyond the wards, which naturally does not end well.
Before we get into it, this is your warning for major spoilers ahead. This includes potentially all Empyrean series materials. We're also avid fans of the Moss universe and might accidentally let spoilers slip for other popular romantasy book series as well. Sorry in advance, like the books, this podcast is rated R, so be warned.
Also, a friendly reminder to please like, subscribe, and follow. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also join our growing community on Patreon for bonus content and more.
Alright, last we left off, Violet had just gone head-to-head with Theophany. For the first time, we learned that Garrick, and probably a lot of the other marked ones, have a second signet, and Violet made a covert visit to Jack fucking Barlow, where he probably said too much, but hey, we're not complaining. As Imogen and Violet leave, however, they run into the rest of second years, and they make their way to the archives, teasing each other along the way. And it's so funny because I just recently came across this, but there's a new study that says that friends that playfully roast each other are 3 times more loyal and honest and have a stronger bond.
I think anyone that has a friend that they've ragged on for years can attest to that.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this. I love the group dynamics here where they're giving Sawyer a hard time and Sawyer's like, hey, why can't we pick on you and Tara? And what about Xaden and Violet and their 50-year-old marriage?
Yeah.
I love that Sawyer's like, why is it always me? I lost my leg. You guys won't leave me alone about Jacinia. Come on.
I mean, honestly, out of all of them, I would pick on Sawyer and Jacinia too because they're the cutest. They're like this cute little couple.
They really are. They're adorable.
Love the dynamics.
Yes.
Just the whole group dynamics is so much fun. It makes it so much fun to read. And I think that, for me, is my favorite part of books where they can create that kind of Scooby Gang thing.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that Ridoc is here, as Lily has pointed out before, is speaking for the reader when he's like, and y'all are always fighting, and it's always the same fight. Won't you tell me all your secrets? You made me fall in love with you because of my secrets. Why can't you stay safe for 5 fucking seconds?
I think Ridoc is definitely written this way to tell us that Yaros is self-aware.
Yes.
She's like, yes, I know I wrote that into the book, but like, you're just gonna have to get over it.
It's great though. It makes me laugh every time. And the audiobook does a really great job of it. And I actually heard the graphic audio version of it as well. And it is fantastic. All around.
Also, one of the only criticisms I have of this book so far, because I've enjoyed it, but one of my criticisms is kind of what we're talking about here, which is I feel like we're missing a little bit of that, I don't know, that sense of community that we had in the first 2 books. Just how you were saying, Christy, that you like when we get those moments where they're ribbing each other and like playfully talking to each other. There are moments like that in this book, and I do enjoy them, but also there's so much happening back to back to back that I feel like we're missing a little bit of it, you know? Like it's a lot of action after action after action so far.
Yeah.
There's no rest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. And unfortunately, you know, there's this saying that in all book series, you have to have one book where the main character goes on a travel expedition and leave all the known characters behind and you meet new characters. This is that book.
That doesn't surprise me.
We're going traveling.
Yeah. But I think you can still find moments of rest. I think that's Lily, you're right. That's what's hard as a reader is if you don't have those moments of like rest instead of just back-to-back wars.
Yeah.
Right. Well, speaking of the friendly dynamics, Jacinia is back in the archives. She's been trusted to do the research for Quest Squad. And I just got to say that chapter opening, fuck you, Markham.
Yeah. Seriously. You know, in the scene further ahead, when she kind of lets him have it, I was just like, yes.
She does it deadpan. Yes. I was like, there's some more friendly roasting.
Friendly roasting.
Yeah, friendly.
Definitely.
I'm not some high oracle.
Great. It's great.
I do love that it was 3 exams, and we did point out in episode 2 that there are a lot of 3s. And I love that he thinks that he's kicked her out, but she's going to be the fucking curator one day. And so I'm like, she sure showed you, Markham.
Yep.
And I hate that the other cadets in there are being such little bitches about it. And it also brings up, did the other 2 cadets who left with her, are they getting the same treatment? Did they come back to Erasia? Who were they?
Yeah, I wonder if they came back.
I wouldn't have come back.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, speaking of the 3s, we now have a power of 6 kind of thing, and 6 is certainly showing up a lot in this book. And I want to be on Weather Watch, but I also want to be on a 6 watch. And so far, there's just a lot. You have the 6 known dragon breeds. So, I mean, we knew, or we're adding a 7th to that, but throughout Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, we had 6. There's 6 Providence of Nivar, 6 members of the Cenarium. Violet wanted to take 6 riders originally. There's 6 months before the wards fail in Erasia. There are 6 second years in Second Squad. There's so many S's.
This is a lot.
Yeah. Jacinia brings out 6 tomes here. There's 600 years worth of history to go through. There's the first 6. Violet's dad got secretive 6 months before. And it's not stated until next chapter, but it's been 6 weeks since Violet and Xaden had sex.
Oh my god. I think, so like, when we said it in when we were talking about it the first time, all the 3s, of course, I think we should highlight to any listeners, a lot of the stuff that we talk about is not necessarily us saying, this is canon, this is like, she definitely meant it this way. You know what I mean? Like, us pointing out all of the 3s or all the 6s, we're kind of just rolling off theories here, right? But it is a little crazy that there's so many 3s and 6s.
Yeah.
And the thing about Yaros is that she's very intentional. And so if we can't just ignore finding patterns like that, maybe she just happens to like angel numbers 333. Or maybe she meant it intentionally.
And I will say both of these do come, somebody else wrote it on the internet, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to look into this.
Yeah.
And I'm relatively sure that anybody that listens to our podcast knows that we're just shot in the dark with all of the fucking theories I have gotten wrong.
Well,
Caleb.
It's for fun.
We're doing this for fun. We don't also take ourselves that seriously. But yeah, I agree with you, Christy. I think most people know.
And to be fair, I have those same reactions when I hear certain theories. Because I'm like, no, that doesn't work. Nope. Shutting that down. Nope. Okay. Back to there's also, I want to just really quickly mention, there's also the pub that they visit in Shantara is called the Six Talons.
Oh, shut up. It does feel so intentional.
Yeah. And her dad's research had a 6-letter lock with 6 vials of whatever on it. So yeah, and there's 6 gods. And speaking of gods, we're gonna skip ahead and talk about that visit to Shantara.
Okay.
So
it reminds me of the 3 broomsticks. Is that wrong?
No.
I know I bring up Harry Potter a lot, but it does kind of remind me of that. That and the little session when they're doing the like signet sparring kind of reminds me of Dumbledore's army a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess I just tend to do that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Varish, like when I read him, the first word that came to my mind was Umbridge.
Yeah. Our childhoods have really had an effect on us.
Yeah. But speaking of the gods, the Flyers go to Shantara with the writers and they spend hours in the temples. And it made me wonder, are they more are they more into the gods than the Flyers?
Yeah, Traeger brings up the fact that, I think it was Traeger.
Yeah.
He brings up the fact that Dune and Malik have bigger temples here in this part of Navarre, which I feel like Sawyer kind of brushes it off as like, oh, it's regional, we're a war college, like, you know what I mean? But it is a great point, and I think that it should be noted that the Flyers seem to think it's a big deal that their specific temples are larger. So clearly they hold some kind of importance that we're not understanding.
Yeah, they said Amari is also pretty big.
Oh, so yeah.
You've got 3 major big temples, and then Hedion, I cannot pronounce the goddess of love for the life of me. It's kind of like the U-boat thing.
Lowiel?
I don't know.
I don't know.
And Zanal, which I'm surprised that Zanal have smaller temples. And
you would think the god of luck would be important.
Yeah, but she also said that Violet said that she thought her mom would be more into worshiping Dune, but her mom was never temple-minded. And she favored Amari until her dad died. And then she favored Malik's temple, but she spent most of the time yelling at him, which, I have the theory that Malik favors her, but I was like, maybe this is why. Maybe he was like, oh, she's got balls.
Yeah. I mean,
Drake likes a woman who might kill him, so
clearly Xaden also likes an angry Violet too, so it might just be a running theme,
For real. Oh, and Ridoc.
The way your face dropped.
Ridoc favors Zanal, and when I read that, I was like, that is the most duh thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I have some things to say about Ridoc later. We can come back to him.
Definitely.
Okay.
I just have one little thing to say about Panchak because he's mostly off the page. Although I think it's interesting that despite the fact that he got passed over for the promotion, he is letting Atos run this school. So he's doing even less than he was doing before.
Yeah, which is really odd.
But
he's probably angry. Like, he's mad he got passed over. And so he's like, fuck this. I'm not doing work.
Yeah. Or he's involved in other things.
But I do think it's funny that the
cocaine
dude...
and sex.
What? What?
Do what now?
Cocaine and sex.
Cocaine and sex. I have no words. Yeah, definitely.
I do think it's funny that this guy is so arrogant and egotistical that he has 2 personal memoirs as a fucking lieutenant.
That's great.
Really? In your vast experience as a lieutenant? That's
like, get over
literally,
yourself, bud.
literally the rank you get when you graduate. Like, and I love that he's like, this is Tactics, a personal memoir by Lieutenant Lyron Panchak. And my second personal memoir is Tactics 2. I'm so original.
Great job, guy. Great job.
Just the arrogance. I'm surprised they published that.
They probably didn't. I mean, do they have a publishing house? And I mean, if we're gonna get,
the scribe.
The scribes do it, yeah.
Can you imagine the poor scribe that had to like go through and edit that?
Yeah.
Do they?
They were like, just publish it once. One printing is fine.
Oh God. Well, we do have. So we've talked about this before, but right before when this book came out, you were scared about it in Iron Flame, but you also talked to me about it before Onyx Storm about Xaden and Violet breaking up and him leaving her and pulling in Edward Cullen.
Uh-huh. You continue to bring it up, actually.
I know. But we kind of have that here when Xaden becomes Professor Ryerson.
Yeah, this doesn't count. I feel like even though the first time I read it, I was like, holy, holy HR violation. But they are so not, they don't care about that. It's just like on page, they are broken up. You know what I mean? And that's not the same as pulling in Edward Cullen and leaving for her best interests. You know what I mean? Which I still think Xaden could do. I still think it's possible.
I just think it's funny because when I had gotten to that part and you were like, just tell me that he doesn't leave her. And I was like,
I need to know.
They do break up. And you were like, or no, you ask, do they break up? And I just texted back, yes. And then went, sorta, or something like that. And I was like, how do I tell her?
You're like, this is sort of? Yes? Yeah. No?
As somebody puts it, Xaden is her non-boyfriend current lover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's like, it's a long distance relationship, locally sourced.
Beautifully put, Christy. Thank you so much. Yes. Beautifully put.
All right. Well, we do have Professor Xaden Ryerson now teaching, what did they call it? Signet sparring. And his class is just...
Oh, yeah.
It.
Yeah.
Is
it just
banter.
Another opportunity for all of us to just, fawn over him a little bit, for him to have a moment to grope Violet a little bit.
Kiss her in the dark.
I was like, the kiss in the dark? Why did that get me?
Especially after Caroline Ashton was like, ooh, I was waiting for this.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
you're not going to be able to see anything.
Blackout.
I will say, when he winked at her during the sparring, I was like, stop. He was being so ridiculous, but I love it,
Yeah. The thing he wanted her to learn, though, is how to find him in the dark. I feel like this is some foreshadowing.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting, though, that Atos was so against him being on campus. It makes me wonder, what are you hiding? Why don't you want him here in order to keep an eye on him? Are you trying to send him out past the wards so that he can channel more and become fully Venin?
See, my question is, if Atos is Venin like we've theorized, wouldn't he know that Xaden is Venin?
He would?
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he doesn't want him there. I don't know, just like you said. But I feel like it's not so that he will have to channel. But it is weird.
Yeah. I think he's just spiteful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like Atos having all the cadets watch Violet and Xaden reminded me so much of a certain department in my previous job. The way they watched me and made me feel. And I think that is super, super toxic and bullying.
Yeah.
It makes you feel so paranoid.
Yeah. It does suck.
So for Xaden, his shadows can hear things, correct?
Supposedly, yes.
Okay, so I would have just sent my shadows around all those people all the time, so they would have absolutely no privacy. I would just do the same thing to them. Like when Aura was saying that they were so many people that were happy to make them miserable.
I was
really wanted them to retaliate.
Yeah, I was like, can the dragons just eat them now? Can somebody please accidentally kill her or on purpose? I know she dies later, but can you please just kill her now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised by how little they do in response.
Yeah, and I get that. Listen, that's the healthier way to respond to things. But we read these books because we are unhealthy people, and we need the characters to have that same unhealthy response.
I don't know if Xaden has healthy responses to things. I think he regularly responds in an incorrect, unhealthy manner, you know?
Especially since turning Vinin, his yeah. Which
the impulse control is gone, babe.
Oh yeah. And I don't know if y'all noticed, but there's a certain type of language being used around Xaden's Vininism?
What you mean?
What?
There's anytime that Xaden goes towards channeling, towards more power, towards being more of a Vinin, there's a certain type of language that's being used. And it's icy, chilled, cold.
I did catch that a bit. But I figured, I didn't think that had anything to do with his being Vinin. I thought that was just a choice made in more correlation, not like, you know what I mean? Like not causation, but correlation.
Yeah. And I mean, I could be wrong, but
I mean, you're right that it is like when they describe him a lot of times where he's feeling less in control, that it sounds like that. Yeah.
I did not notice that at all.
You know me, I'm sitting here analyzing every little, okay, so this word. I told Lily, I was like, this might be a gushing episode. And then I finished the last 5 chapters and I was like,
Just kidding.
Literally took almost rewrote the book into our notes and. Okay, well, during one of these sparring sessions with Professor Ryerson and Garrick, which, I'm sorry, every time Garrick is on the page, love him. Love him.
He's great. He's so fun.
He steals the show almost.
Yeah, he's super fun.
But
Ridoc saying, okay, why don't you just fucking have sex already?
Yes! Yes.
I said that out loud.
And yes, Violet's like, you might want to work on keeping the inside voices inside.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be like, but we want the inside voices out on the podcast.
We want to hear Ridic's inside voice, at least.
Yes.
Yes.
At least Ridic's. Oh, man.
But chapter 3's heading reads as, sometimes I worry about Violet. She has your sharp wit, quick mind, and steadfast heart paired with my bullheaded tenacity. When she finally and truly gives that heart, I fear that it will overrule the other gifts you've given her, and logic will cede its voice to love. And if her first 2 liaisons are any indication of what we might expect, God's help her, my love. I'm afraid our daughter has atrocious taste in men. And that was from General Lilith Sorengale to her husband, I believe, but it was unsent. And
right.
We this was very much theorized before the book came out, but we do find out that Halden, Prince of Navarre, Crown Prince of Navarre, was her ex.
And what an introduction we got.
And what a red flag he is.
A walking red flag.
For real.
Yeah. The second he opens his mouth, you're just like, oh,
shut up.
My God.
Yeah. Bitch slap you. He cheated. Then he tried to make himself the victim because
he was like, I was suffering.
Yeah.
My twin died.
I was still grieving. And then he asked her out when he literally, her boyfriend, which as Xaden says, that's too tame of a word for them.
Iconic quote.
In the room.
And he acknowledges it. He's like, I heard you were kind of dating Xaden, but do you want to get some dinner maybe? Like sometime soon? It's like, my guy, are you sure you want to try that right now?
Also, he said, I owe you an apology and never gave it.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to give her an apology.
No.
That's not his real intent.
Absolutely not. Although it does make me wonder because she talks down to him so much and yells at him, and he is perfectly fine with it. And so it makes me wonder if he's liking this dominatrix Violet.
The new version of Violet. I think, yeah, likely.
Probably so. I think guys like him, they like what they can't have. And so,
Yes, definitely.
Oh, yeah. And, later on when they're in Corden, Xaden is pricking his temper, and she says, don't, he'll smash things, he'll hit things, the closest thing. And she's like literally got a list of things that he breaks and says that his guards don't like to be around him. Aaric didn't like to be around him.
So that was kind of a shocker to me. Like, I don't know. I kind of perceived Halden as this talks a lot, but has like no bite. And once I heard Violet say, I read, that Violet said that, once he gets upset about stuff, he throws things. I was like, so he's a bit of a flight risk, because if he just loses his temper, he has no fucking control over what the fuck he's gonna do. What a terrible fucking prince.
Mm-hmm.
Potential king.
Did you notice it said
brat.
that he was effective on the battlefield?
Yeah.
That's what made him so lethal on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So, I do have to give him a little bit of credit. At least he gets his ass out there, and I'm not
At least he's been
it.
on the battlefield.
Unlike his father.
But he's like an
my God.
uncontrolled version of Xaden. He doesn't, when he gets upset, he doesn't have that ability to control, but Xaden can figure out how to like tamp it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so he's effective because he's strong or whatever. But if he doesn't have control, that only lasts so far.
Yeah. Although they can just wind him up and put him in the middle of the enemy and then, go nuts.
Yeah.
So that would help.
We'll see how long he lasts.
That's
my thought exactly.
Aaric for
I don't
Prince.
know. I feel like they're going to are they going to make him a better? Are they going to do with him what they did with like Steve on Stranger Things, where he kind of starts out as this asshole and then they turn him into like a hero through?
I'm not going to lie. I would kind of love that. I would kind of love that. If he becomes that kind of character, I think I would genuinely really enjoy that. But as of right now, he's kind of like a spoiled brat. So it's like, it could go either way,
Right.
I've never watched Stranger Things, so.
You gotta.
Yes, it's so good.
I've heard that.
The third season's kind of sucks, but once you get past the third season, it's all really good. Yeah.
Well,
and the first two are good. Just the third one is bad.
Well, I also think it's interesting that Halden uses his "didn't you know my brother's missing" to kind of make Violet feel sorry for him when she can tell he doesn't give a damn at all.
It's also grimy to use the death of your brother to get sympathy.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Oh, yeah. And
like, how much could you actually think of him if you're using his memory in that way? It's pretty fucked up.
And we know from Iron Flame that the other of the two liaisons, she said that they were both from the infantry. So literally that's all we know about him. Who is this guy? Is he going to be important? Is he going to be a cat? Did she love him? Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Did you say, is he going to be a cat?
Like Catriona.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought, what?
A pain in the ass.
That's funny.
Also a cat.
I thought you meant, is he going to be a cat, as in, are we going to name a cat after him? Because as of yet, we have named many cats after characters. So I was like, a cat?
No, I meant Catriona.
That makes sense.
So I'm glad I'm not the only one
I was like, huh?
thinking in that direction.
But
I did want to ask about one weird thing to clarify. So in a lot of these chapter starts, it'll say like unsent correspondence or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't those have been burned to Malik as well? Because they were like Lilith's correspondence. Like, isn't that kind of a no-no to even open them instead of just burning them?
Well, see, they don't burn research, which again, why I don't understand. Because like Violet says to Dane that I need you to retrieve something from my mom's old quarters. It's nothing that needs to be burned. And in the king's vault, he had a bunch of journals from people, not just the first 6 from Lyra and Warwick, but from other commanders and stuff. So it's really unclear about what needs to be burned and what doesn't.
Yeah, because
hers was a straight up letter. I mean, she's just talking to her husband about the poor choices in men from her daughter's posts. It's postal stuff.
At the same, like, it's an unsent correspondence, because I wonder if this had to have been written after Asher's death, because she says the first 2, and she later on says, my father couldn't stand the first guy I really dated and never knew about the second.
Yeah.
So she wrote this, and I'm looking at it more as a journal entry.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking, because it's mentioned later that Violet went back to her mother's office and took her journals and has been reading them. And so I think we get the excerpt because it's a part of the journal that Violet grabbed. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah. Okay.
And we know that Violet has a penchant for not burning everything to Malik. So.
Yeah. And speaking of Asher Sorengale, we do finally get his name.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah.
Asher.
Dane does come through for us. I was a little disappointed in Violet for not trusting Dane in the beginning, or even to be like, well, Dane needs to betray his dad. He'll never do that. He did it.
He already has.
Yeah, he did it, and the others point that out.
Yeah. Like, I understand where Violet's coming from there, but I also immediately I knew he would do it because, like they point out, his dad has disowned him. At this point, I think Dane probably feels like, oh, what's one more fucking lie? You know what I mean? And I feel bad for Dane.
I do too.
Yeah.
Especially between the relationship he and his father had. If we are to understand they were pretty close somewhat before.
Yeah.
It's sad that he feels disillusioned, probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like growing up in one political party and then growing and becoming a different political party.
A feature of growing up in the South.
But, you know. Anyway, the book has a 6-letter lock. There are 6 files of ink. I'm guessing you only get one chance to do this. I mean,
that's,
damn.
It's implied.
And that's when I was like, I texted you guys, oh, let's like make guesses. And then, a chapter later.
Yeah, I was like, you'd have to make your guesses now. I have to make your guesses now. Do you remember what your guess was going to be?
It was wrong. I remember it was 100% wrong. Yeah.
Was it Lilith or Violet?
No, it was like books or signet or something like that. Like it was, completely off. So, yeah.
Sorry I didn't respond to that. I've been really, really busy all weekend. But when I saw it, I was like, well, she's going to find out soon. I was like, it'll be all right. But, I didn't think it was going to be Violet or Lilith, but I was surprised by the answer.
Yeah,
because he's not a writer.
I was too, and her logic about it made perfect sense as to why that's the password.
Now, I did have a problem with all of her friends being like, well, who was Violet's first love? Who was Mira's? I was like, why the fuck would he choose Violet or Mira's first love? Like,
that'd be
come
creepy.
the fuck on. Yeah, that'd be weird.
Creepy. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna bring this up later, but I'll bring it up now. I think it's Ridoc who says, who was Brennan's first love? And you know what 6 letters? Naolin.
Naolin.
Oh my God.
And we get this little indication where she's like, I think I remember Mira saying that he was in a relationship with an older writer.
An older writer.
Oh, wow.
And you know what? We haven't seen a lot of Brennan. I am still wondering about that man.
Same.
I think Riddick's about to.
But anyway,
dude, if Brennan and Ridoc get together, that'd be crazy. That'd be
Brennan's
crazy.
so serious. Brennan is so serious, and
he needs that.
Ridoc is so silly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be cute.
He would need that. Yeah. Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Oh, then Brennan would be royalty.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Because of our theory that Ridoc is royalty.
I was like, what?
Yes. I feel like it is very valid. Like, Ridoc seems like a royal. He's absolutely royal.
He's definitely hiding some shit.
Like King Ridoc. Like, that sounds beautiful.
Oh, that's...
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Claps. Snaps. Yeah. Snaps for King Ridoc.
Okay, so back to the research. What's interesting about this book is that it has a rune on it. Now, the Navarian people supposedly didn't really even... They were banned hundreds of years ago. How did he get a rune on his book? And I'm assuming...
He was smart.
Assuming Lilith did it for him? Because he didn't have any magic to do it himself.
Well, could he not learn?
But he didn't have a dragon or a griffin to pull. Unless he pulled from the earth.
I don't know why, but I thought that runes were separate from that.
You have to have magic to make a rune, though. Like, it is sort of separate, but you have to have magic in order to make it.
Well, right, because I get that it's magic, but I still, for some reason, I associated runes as separate from channeling. So, in my mind, you should be able to do the runes without having to channel from a griffin or a dragon. But I just made an assumption. It wasn't a...
Oh.
I thought that way, too, because I thought that they would gather the magic from the earth themselves, like their own conduit.
Right, because I always assumed that runes, that's why they're special. You can create them literally out of thin air.
Yeah.
I just looked at it as they were magic that... Like, say I am a dragon rider and I make it and I can give it to somebody who doesn't have magic and they can use it, but they can't make it. That was how I interpreted it.
I think the reason I understand that, but I think up to this point, we've only seen flyers and riders. And so I think it's easy to make an assumption that you have to have magic in order to channeled magic in order to make a rune. But in my understanding, what makes runes so powerful is that you can channel them from other sources. But that's not something that I read in the book. It's an assumption I made based on the display of how to create the runes from the class. So I don't really know.
I will say this. There is a quote. It's in the chapter 19. Now, people without magic can't see magic. So it would be hard for them to pull, but...
You had a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It says, magic slips free of the ward's cage. Power expands in every direction, running like a current that rushes around me, beckoning me to play or destroy. My skin tingles as we slip down into the valleys through the espins, and I'm struck with the oddest urge to try and pluck strands from the very sky. So you could be right.
I just made an assumption. Now, it would make a lot of sense to me if runes are the one magic that are, separate from channeling. And I think maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm going a little too far ahead, but in the last chapter of this section, when they finally reach the Isles, isn't there a rune there?
Mira does
I literally just read it, but
Mira does bring runes to try out on the Isles to see if they will work.
Right. So we'll see, based on the next section, if they do work, then that can be evidence for...
Oh, because doesn't Violet have runes on her daggers?
She does.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk about this later on, but just so I don't forget, could that also be why she keeps her connection to Taryn and the others lose theirs?
Could be if she has a special rune. I don't know.
Okay.
The thing about...
We'll pick that up later on.
The thing about the rune that she is handed to Mira, handed by Mira to Violet, it was supposed to protect her from the sun. And the first time I read this, Xaden says, "Oh, your nose is getting red." I thought it didn't work. I'm not sure now because she would have spent 16 hours in her dragon with the sun coming down and maybe it was pink before. But the whole time I read the book, I just assumed it didn't work.
What's a weird thing to point out?
Interesting.
Right after she gives her the rune, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
We don't have an answer.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the research. What did y'all think about the research in general? What we learned?
About the Krovlin uprising?
Yeah. Any thoughts on why it's connected to Feathertails or how Violet's dad knew of some merchant on an isle that hasn't supposedly been stepped on by a Navarian in 100+ years?
I feel like they're protecting the seventh breed. I feel like somehow they knew that, I don't know, maybe there's a good group of humans that
Krovla?
have just somewhere. I mean, honestly, even the Venom, I wondered if they had somehow protected the seventh breed because...
Krovla is where Corden is, not the Isles.
Right. But just some, like a group of people, not them.
Somebody,
yeah.
But what I'm in...
Brittany's like, what the fuck?
I'm confused, yeah. In Asher's research, there was the second Krovlin uprising on the continent, and Dane's dad said that it had something to do with Feathertails or something like that. And then, if you remember back in chapter 13, I think it was, Jacinia says that she read some general's journal and it had mention of, it had mentioned that the Isles were involved in that uprising, and then somebody ripped out the pages.
Right.
Which, do we think Asher did it?
Probably. If he was looking into it, or somebody who wanted to hide what he was looking into. But I think Asher was trying to hide information about the Feathertails because he was worried about protecting them. So It's likely that he did. Now, what that could mean, I don't think I have enough context clues to make a hypothesis as of right now. But I do think it's interesting.
So I think that there were two groups. I think maybe they knew what the Feathertails were capable of with the kind of power. That's why they hide them from humans. Maybe somebody found out and you had two groups, one to protect and one to abuse. And maybe that was their way of hiding them away or something. I don't know. Maybe that was the rebellion to keep that power from them.
I do think it's possible that somewhere there is a hatching ground. And maybe the uprising has to do with the hatching ground. And that Asher had contact with whoever was near the hatching ground or knew something about it, and that's how he knows the merchants. And maybe he had to trade to get that information. I don't know.
Are you saying there's a hatching ground on the Isles, or hatching ground in Port-Emil?
I'm not saying either because I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't know where. I just think somewhere there's a hidden hatching ground.
Yeah, although it'd be cool if it was on the Isles. But that would be weird because they don't have magic.
Yeah.
Well, since the topic is up already, I am going to say that we did learn 2 new spots for original hatching grounds. One being the Reds, who are along the Dunas River. and one being the Blues, which is near Corden. Now, she also does mention that the Browns prefer the cold, so it makes me wonder if they're somewhere in the north.
I wonder if that's why Atrum was screaming at Ridoc when they got to the island.
Oh my god, yes. It's fucking hot here!
Riddick's like, there's no point in screaming at me if I can't hear you.
It's like you're screaming at me in another language. I'm sorry, dude.
Atrum is one of the youngest, so it makes sense. I love that.
There's
but
a
yeah.
bit. On here,
love
but you
Atrum.
put where were the original hatching grounds of the Irids? But that was the Barrens. Isn't that what they said? That it was the Barrens where the hatching grounds were?
It's something we theorized.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I thought they said it, though. I thought they said they got Andarna's egg out of the Barrens before all of that happened.
I think it's something we talked about as a possibility based on a timeline.
That was a theory I think you found on Reddit, because I just listened to episode 7.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. Okay. Never mind.
All right. Anything else on Papa Sorengales? I know, sorry. That just kind of slipped out.
It's okay.
Because I typed it.
I don't care. It's okay.
Asher Sorengales research.
No, but I'm sure we're going to find out more soon.
I love that a lot of the headings here are from that book. And I want to point out this one little thing where she said, I have an inkling of a thought of where he might have been headed in his hypothesis. When Varish mentioned last year that he thought the research dealt with feathertails, I never imagined it would lead in this direction.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, what is your thought, Violet? Because I have no idea where you're headed with that.
Maybe the 7th breed is a wyvern, and eventually Andarna is going to turn into a wyvern.
That would absolutely blow my fucking mind.
She would lose 2 legs.
That would blow my mind.
Well, she did have the muscle thing, remember? And maybe the little, it's like, I'm just kidding. I don't think that's going to happen.
Spit facts. That would be crazy.
All right. Well, let's talk about Quest Squad version 1.0. They put Grady in charge of this. I know he's dead.
Oh.
I still want to know his signet.
Oh, poor Grady. I would also like to know his signet. Stupid fucking
going up
Aura
like a
Bindhaven.
candle.
That's his signet burning really well. Oh my god.
So, you know what? He has a nightlight. That is his signet.
Damn.
Oh my god. I will say he and Aura will not be missed. You will not be mourned.
No.
I wouldn't even commend you to Malik. Fuck off,
Although
bitch.
I was pissed off at how fast Aura's was. Really?
You wanted her to
So
suffer a little
fast.
bit. Yeah.
Her body was dead before that thing started lifting her off. Come on.
Oh,
Not even a
man.
scream.
Did
That's
you want
so
her
funny.
to be eaten alive?
No, I wanted her toes nibbled and then maybe up the leg and then,
Eaten
like an
alive?
arm.
She-
yes.
The way
yes,
poor
but
Sawyer was...
I wanted her as a dragon amuse-bouche.
Oh my gosh. She's such a piece of shit. I was so happy to see her go, but I definitely get it. I definitely get it.
Yes.
So Grady was chosen because he, for some reason, has the most experience behind enemy lines. But I was infuriated because I was like, okay, so Violet, Xaden, and Mira have the most experience fighting the actual enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Xaden, Mira, and then Violet with the experience. Like, how do you not put somebody who has gone up against them? How did they not add flyers to the team when you've got to take Halden and there's a infantry liaison, there's a scribe liaison, and I know she's not going on the missions. There's no healer. There's no healer liaison. But anyway,
it's hard not to assume they're fucking sending them on a suicide mission. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard not to just make that assumption.
Yeah, and Mira calls him out on it in Anka. She's like,
Yeah.
I feel like you're trying to make this mission fail.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I point out, Aura has no battle experience. None whatsoever.
Yeah.
She got sent to a Midland post. I am certain of it. She's not mentioned in Iron Flame past chapter 36. I doubt she has ever fought a Venin. And then they sit there and say...
Well, it doesn't seem like it.
They sit there and say 4 times, don't wield. And she's like, okay, I'm a fucking wield.
She's like, I think it's better safe than sorry.
She screamed like I hate to say little girl because that's not really fair.
Derogatory to little girls.
Yes, derogatory to little girls. She screamed like a little boy
and
lit him up like a Christmas tree because she was scared. So, no, she's never seen battle. Oh my God. But it's cracks me up that it's Grady she lit up because he was the one dumb enough to put her on the team. Oh, yeah. I mean, literally he signed up for that shit.
If you look at Liam and Imogen and Violet's response when they had their first battle with a Venin in Ressin, she might have been good in school, but she's one of those people who excelled in school and then failed real life.
Well, if you notice, the people who have fire signets, they are very impulsive. And I think maybe they just are a little, quote unquote, hot-headed.
Perhaps. That would probably be me. Although I'm good in a crisis, so
I think you're pretty good under pressure. I think you're pretty good under pressure. You might have, maybe not fire, maybe you'd have something else.
Lightning.
Something fire adjacent. Maybe lightning.
Well,
although, okay, to bring it back to this mission, though, one of the things that shocked me was that the Flyers get these amplifier stones when they graduate.
Yeah.
Which hasn't been mentioned up to now.
They were kind of glanced over in Fourth Wing when she was walking the parapet, but they never mentioned that the Flyers get them, just that poor Emil has them.
Oh, I remember that. Because we briefly discussed it, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if somebody's gonna get their hands on a stone.
Yeah.
That has not been drained.
Yeah. But what is funny here is that they go to the house of, Amelia of the First Drift?
Mm-hmm.
So is this the first 6? But
it does sound like that.
Griffin?
Yeah.
So, and it makes me, it made me wonder, and there was this other quote that they talked about where they said it's funny that they built this city to keep dragons out, but it's dragons that were going to save us. And then I think Mira pointed out, well, the griffins would fit if they tucked their wings in. And it made me think, what if our answer isn't in the dragons? What if it's in the griffins? We kind of gloss over them because they're weaker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or what if it's a combination of dragon and griffin working together?
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't it? I mean, if they already live on the fucking continent, we can't just ignore a whole other side of the continent.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense to me.
Yeah.
And I wondered, because Asher mentions the weapon in his letter, is it an actual weapon? Or we theorized it might be Andana's species, and that's what Violet thinks it is. But the way he talked about it just made me think it was an actual weapon instead of the dragon. Maybe a ward stone that's been imbued with dragon and griffin and...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That could be...
That would make sense.
Yeah, that's a potential for sure.
Yeah, that was my thought when I was like, ooh, I can't wait to talk to y'all guys about this. Because I was like, we've been ignoring the Griffins so far and their role in the Great War, because in the Great War, they fought together with each other.
That's a great point. I mean, to be fair, the books have ignored them up to the end of Iron Flame even. So it's I think it's just a little bit of bias on the people who wrote all the history books. You know what I mean? So obviously we're not thinking about them, but it would be foolish to ignore their existence, I'm sure.
Yeah. I agree. I think it also makes me want to know where their stupid hatching grounds are. I want to know more about the griffins.
The flyers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said the flyers, but I mean the griffins.
I definitely would love to know more about the griffins and the flyers. I think they're a really interesting set. And I think that, I don't think we know enough. I don't think there's enough attention paid to them.
We need more of a POV from a flyer, too, because
Thank you.
We don't know what's going on in the Griffins' minds.
Mm-hmm.
They have conversations with their flyers. I think we should have some kind of say from them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love
agree.
that.
Yeah. I bet I would be a fucking flyer.
I will say, as far as the rest of this squad goes, they're all idiots.
Yeah. It's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Pugh, which every time I hear his name, all I can hear is pew, pew, pew.
I was thinking of Florence Pugh.
That too.
The actress. Yeah.
But he abandoned his post and went
what a
off.
dumbass. And then they make him in charge of the next group?
Yeah.
Or at least second in charge. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He literally fucking ran.
And then blamed Zayden for it.
He answers, though, to them. He bows to them. So they don't care if he's the right person for the job.
Right.
They care if they have control of him. But
which is why Aura was on the first squad, because I bet Atos put her there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's also take a minute and let's talk about fucking Terran's slow motherfucking ass. He is not the fastest dragon. He's like snail dragon. 60 seconds. Get your fucking ass in gear and pick up the speed, because that is some bullshit. I know Brittany had a response that she has been waiting to say. So please explain this to me, Brittany.
Okay, so for one, we don't know how far Terran had to fly in order to find land that wasn't drained. So he's not necessarily in the city because they drained the entire city. But the biggest thing that came to my mind, I was watching a Bones episode and one of the characters said that they were a long distance track runner. And I was like, no, you're not. It's cross country or track. And y'all, I'm pretty sure I told y'all both that I ran cross country in high school. And we are slow off the start, but we take off time as we go further. We train for endurance. So when Terran flies long distances, he can cut off a couple hours because it's a long distance. Whereas a track runner is fast and like right off the start, but they only go a mile at most. It's very short distances. And so I got pulled in front of class one day because my cross-country coach was teaching about the muscle in your calf. And she was like, it can develop in two different ways. One is if it's really long, that means you're more suited to cross country. And if it's really short and more defined, then that means you're more suited to track. So maybe Terran is a cross country runner or flyer, whatever, instead of a track flyer.
This feels like you're reaching.
You know, I'm always amazed by Brittany's ability to pull some shit out of her ass, because honestly, that was very convincing, Brittany. I gotta hand that to you. Hand that to you.
It's all, real. I mean, I think that he's a long distance flyer.
He is supposed to be the big bad
and big
monster
and bad
dragon, and you're telling me he is like last place in the sprint?
I'm saying big and bad is slow to
really
get off
big.
the ground.
Yeah. I mean, it is
then
logical.
Andarna should be carrying him. That's the game.
I have no dog in this fight, so I'm just going to keep taking my water break.
But he is also always 60 seconds out. What is happening for 60 seconds?
Maybe he's like 20 miles away.
Maybe he's just pooping. I don't know. It's like, give me a minute to finish up, then I'll be right there.
Can we go one episode without poop?
No.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. So my other thing was, like on Montserrat,
funny.
they had to take turns
Pooping.
landing. So maybe he was fighting a wyvern while the other dragons were landing. Or, like in an airport when one plane lands and the
You mean
other
it wasn't
plane...
on the page?
It was not on the page.
So if that's the case, who's doing like the flight adjustments of who can land when?
Oh. I mean, we saw Sigale fighting a wyvern.
Atrim, you're clear for landing.
Well, what's her name? Henson thought she could, and then Zayden was like, "We don't answer to you."
Oof.
But yeah, I'm sure there's some kind of like hierarchy of, I'm gonna go fight this wyvern while you get your rider, and then I'll get mine and you fight, and I don't know.
All right. Let's roll it back.
I just wanted to give Taryn a little bit of a break. I know he is being slow. He should have probably stayed above the town, but that was I want to defend him, but also you lose points for leaving in the first place.
Yeah, we're going to have to take this one up with Yaros.
I can't believe Aura burned that whole town because she's
for real.
Scared little.
Technically, Grady did.
Well, Grady was also stupid for coming out of a door that he did not enter. He entered one side of the street and came out on the other, knowing that
he fucking deserved it. If you come out another door, then you die.
He could have said, "Hey guys, it's just me."
I've lost them again.
And last but not least of all, I want to point about Grady. He is the fucking RSC professor. He taught land nav, and he can't fucking read a map. He couldn't fucking read a map.
Case point. Case closed. Grady fucking suffered, and he deserved it.
All right. Thankfully, Mira does retrieve the citrine. It is drained, lost of all color, just like the town. Like when magic is drained from something, it goes colorless, I guess. And Theophany left a note by the citrine, so not only did she know that they would be there, she knew that they were going after that stone. Who told her?
From the future.
You still think she's Violet from the future?
Yes.
So I know that our theory is that Atos is a villain, and a lot of the times I think it's him that's involved. But I think that the person who gave them the orders to do it, I mean, who else do they have contact with that they would have talked to about this? So
I will say,
a little weird.
Did Atos know about this mission to begin with? This is supposed to be a super secret task force. Only the Cenarium and the king and...
Oh my god, they're a bunch of gossips. Come on now.
I know, but
Come on.
I don't think... So, like, the queen... It was the queen that gave her the mission, isn't it?
Well, Viscount Takaris talked to the king of Devarelli and said, I'll have a meeting with you if you bring me this citrine. So then the queen of Pormil, Queen Mariah, agreed to give up the stone, but she wouldn't retrieve it because it was an occupied territory. So all three of them knew.
I see. I had it backwards.
So what if Theophany is Violet's daughter from the future?
Oh, Violet's daughter from the future now. Interesting.
Violet and
I don't know.
Zayden.
She said she's like thousands of years old. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wouldn't she be a little darker?
At least a little darker.
It depends on, not necessarily. DNA.
The seed is strong.
Tapping some recessive genes.
She does, as Lily pointed
Violet
out.
did.
As Lily pointed out, she is thousands of years old. Or she says centuries, so I guess we can say hundreds of years old.
Yeah, hundreds.
Well, she's also Venom too, so that can affect your pallor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know who she is, but I don't think it's Violet's daughter. I don't think Violet would name her daughter Theophany.
That's why.
And that's a hill I'll die on.
What would her and Xaden's daughter's name be? What would it be?
Something really edgy. You know, Yaros is, I don't know, maybe throw another Z or an X in there. You know, something cool.
Well, okay, so there is a W between V and X. So I'm thinking a W.
So,
name.
Uncle Dub. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, W is a good guess. Yeah, W. I could see a W.
All right. Well, this mission has technically succeeded, but Violet is not having it. And so they are going to start Quest Squad 2.0, and she's called to the scenarium, and she has a little conversation with Ridoc beforehand, which I love.
Okay, so this is my favorite part of the section. This is the part where Riddick's like, I'm going with you, right?
Yes.
And I think this is both the best thing because he's her friend. You know what I mean? It's so sweet and like caring. But also too, I think he's not saying something. Like I think he knows something, or he feels something, or he's been hiding something, just like we thought before. And this is a moment that it kind of comes out, and he's like, I can keep you safe. And he blames it on the fact that he's been, practicing his signet, but like, what else? Why did he say it like that? I don't know. Something about this conversation's weird, but I feel like he's holding something back that we don't know about. And I was just very surprised, I guess, by Riddic's choice of words.
Lily, what character was it that you said? Remember when Liam had to go get Xaden and he ended up telling another character to protect her like he did?
It was Ridoc.
Liam told Ridoc,
yeah,
guard her like you're me.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think he's probably taken that to heart, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And
that was what you had theorized.
It is interesting that we find out that Ridoc is probably one of the most powerful ice wielders in existence right now. He's so good that he could freeze the fruit inside the peel.
Right.
So precise. And he can pull it from the air.
It reminds me so much of Avatar, as so many things do. I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Immediately I thought of, oh, he can bend the water in someone's body? That would be crazy.
But it's also interesting that you bring up the guard her like you're me, because I was also going to bring that up. Because who else was an ice wielder?
Yep.
Liam.
That's
right.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I still think Ridoc is not telling us everything. Something's going on. Like when he said that nothing happens to them when they're all together, I think there's something to that.
Yeah. And he was the most hurt whenever Violet finally came clean about the venom and whatnot. And then, yes, he does say bad things happen when we aren't together. And I love that Violet was like, okay, you're coming with me. And she's like, it's not because of your signet, even though that's awesome. It's everything to do with you're right, bad things do happen when we're not together.
And it's really sweet that he wanted to be there. I just, and he's one of my favorite characters. I'm glad he gets a moment in this book, you know? Yeah. Oh, and Sawyer finally has a metal fucking prosthetic leg.
Yes.
Yep.
Finally. I was like, thank you. Someone finally did it. Now, is he going to make it into a cool bionic leg? Well, time will tell.
Violet keeps Violet keeps noticing it, and then she says, but he doesn't seem like he wants to talk about it, so I don't ask. And I'm like,
and it's like, ask about it.
Yeah. But they go into the scenarium, and fucking Markham and Atos are there whispering their lies into Halden's ear, and Xaden is there smirking because he knows what's about to go down.
Yeah. And she walks in and fucking hands them their asses.
Oh my God, It was beautiful.
It's so good. It's so good. And really, I thought she was going to get in more trouble for it.
Same.
But I was living. Ugh, so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote down what she says to Markham.
The credibility of a drunkard and the integrity of a rat.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And as I'm hearing that, I hear Christy going, "Don't insult rats that way." I was like, I can just hear her now.
I did have to hand it to Halden that after Atos tries to like step in, he's like, "You tried and you failed."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I liked Halden a little bit there.
The gall
that's
of
what kind
them
of felt
trying,
like he might have a little bit more of a future.
the gall of them trying to search Erasure.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Y'all are crazy for that. Nice try.
Mm-hmm.
Not getting far with that. And then when Violet's like, Halden was looking at me like he didn't know me.
Yeah.
And Taryn speaks up and is like, he doesn't.
Yeah.
He no longer knows you. Damn.
Well, Taryn also is the one that when Mira, of course, after she kicks Drake in the balls, and then she's asking, okay, you choose your ex, you choose all these like really very odd choices. And Taryn was like, I'm glad somebody said it.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, her choices are very logical. I mean,
yeah.
She can't not bring Halden, unfortunately. Right. And to speak for poor Meal, you need Cat and bringing Drake. And I loved Mira's first interaction with Drake. She's like, "Oh, you're Drake Cordella?" Boom, right to the balls. She's
he was so cocky too.
Yeah. If you ever endanger my sister ever again, my knife will replace my knee.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes, ma'am."
Heard was what he said, which is like, yes, absolutely.
But I want to point out that Serena said,
more like, heard.
Serena with the whole, "You're just his type. My cousin loves women who might kill him."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously they're going to be together.
I mean,
I'm waiting for it.
They're going on a trip together. They're going to spend lots of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
I am excited to get to know Drake. I want to get to know him.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Surprisingly enough, they do go to Corden first, and it takes, I think they said 48 hours with a rest of 12 hours somewhere in there, but they flew 24 hours straight.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, how did they go to the bathroom? I'm just saying.
They don't.
You don't want to be the back dragon for that.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Maybe there's some kind of lesser magic. You never know.
Lesser magics to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, I'm not questioning things. I don't want to know the answer,
How did they sleep? Unless they took a bunch of 5-hour energy. Like
they don't. They don't. Or I mean, I know sometimes she does while she's on the back of Taryn. So I don't know.
Only when she's purely exhausted. But the others don't have a saddle. So if they, imagine holding something with your thighs and your fist for 24 hours straight. Literally holding on for your life. How painful that had to have been once you got off in Corden.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Catriona just jumps off, and I'm like, no, I don't care how exercised you are, holding your muscle for 24 hours straight is gonna be a little bit of
but can we talk about how Halden is delivered in a little basket? Like a little kitten?
Oh yeah, no, I've heard others on the internet call him the basket bitch.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh my god,
so
basket
cute.
boy.
Basket boy. And he can't get out of it.
Struggles for his fucking life to get out of that fucking thing.
And he can't help Anna Winshire, his current lover, out of it either.
I don't think he chooses to. Didn't he walk right past her?
Yeah. He just ignores her. And other people offer to help, and she's like, no, I got it.
Yeah. What a guy.
Mm-hmm.
What a fucking guy.
But I do want to point out the difference between Viscount Takaris and Queen Mariah. She shows up to the scenarium in fucking armor.
Mm-hmm. He's the trophy husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's sitting at home and it says, "Forgive the additional security. We are one of the only major cities left standing in the South." Why is that?
Why is that? I wrote that down too. I was like, it's interesting that they recognize that and that Violet also makes a point to note it.
Oh, yeah. And the way that Violet describes it, she says, "It's built for the movement of air, for beauty and art and light. Even the white marble floors shimmer, reflecting the dawn, just like the winding pools that flow through the space beyond the wide central staircase. The palace won't stand a chance should the Venin venture this far south. Whoever built it had to have known that."
So,
in that staircase, though, wasn't there like some sort of black rock or something below it that she notes when they come in?
Maybe? I don't recall that.
There's the pit with the...
No. It's at the staircase that she talks about it being below.
I don't know. I just think it's interesting that she was like, this city should have fallen so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But doesn't question why it hasn't. And seriously, Dakaris is like sitting back, doing nothing, in his, being relaxing in his little palace, while Queen Mariah is out there fighting a fucking battle, a war.
I mean, would they have something in it that could repel Venin? Like underneath?
We talked about it. We talked about it before, and I do think that they might. Either that or he lied about the stones being from the Dunas, and the whole city is built on these rocks that are drained of magic, and so there's no magic, or there's very little magic there. But I don't know, because I feel like the dragons and the flyers would have felt that.
Is it possible they have a weird alliance or a treaty with the Venin? Because, so you're telling me that Violet is sent on this mission with the knowledge of King Takaris and, I can't remember her name, Queen...
Mariah.
I cannot fucking remember her name. I don't know why. And so both of them know about it. And then they also just happen to have a palace that's untouched by Venin. The only palace in the South that's untouched by Venin. And the Venin knew where she was going when they sent them on that mission. I just think it's a little weird.
Oh, true.
Mariah's,
that would be true.
Mariah's castle is in Suniva, so she doesn't have any connection to Corden other than her relative living there. Okay. So I don't think that she has anything sketchy going on, but I do think Dakaris is sketchy as fuck.
I think she's more sketchy than him.
But could Tic Tac be a good guy, a potential good guy? Because he actually warns them about King Cortland, that although he tries to collect rare items, that King Cortland just takes them. And so I think the fact that he kind of warns them, could he be working with Theophany and trying to protect her somewhat?
Possibly. He doesn't want to lose Violet to Cortland.
Yeah.
True. So it could be a very selfish reason.
For some reason, I trust Takaris in a weird way because, I don't know, something about him in this section, I was surprised by how much I liked him. And maybe that's because he's charming and, like, adept at making people like him. But he's very straightforward. He's to the point. He's like, this is what we have to do. And he is messing with them a little bit, Halden and Xaden, because he likes to have a little bit of fun. But at least in this section, I kind of appreciated how he was like, here's what we have to do. You ride your dragon. I'll go ahead. Now, that could also be a strategy, but
yeah,
I don't know. I got a good vibe from it. Maybe I'm crazy.
Me too. That's exactly what I put, is if he could be a good guy, a potential good guy, or at least a semi-good guy.
Yeah, maybe he's neutral. I don't know.
I think he's a good guy in a self-centered way.
Sure, yeah.
But since you brought up the friction between Xaden and Halden...
Which is so funny.
Let me tell you, one of my favorite scenes. So I'm not a professor.
So what is my authority here? Not a professor? I told you it's not for. Okay, just making sure. Anyways, bye.
Yeah. I'm going to take my girl and go now.
He said, okay, thank you for confirming that. Okay, bye. Oh, it's like, say that.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. And so not a professor.
Yes, so not a professor. So there's this, I guess, trend going on where you say, like, Cassian, put your hands on the headboard. Thing. And then a last name. I picked a wrong character because I don't think Cassian has a last name. But anyway, I wrote Xaden. So not a professor, Ryerson.
Nice. I see what you're saying.
Speaking of Xaden, something's going on with his intrinsic abilities.
Yeah.
He is picking up more things whenever he's having that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever in the sparring match, when Xaden was talking to Halden, and then later when he's talking to Violet, he says, I picked up on a lot of things he was thinking. And she was like, that's not how your signet works.
But it's brushed over in that moment.
Yeah.
And then later, we have this moment where she hears her thoughts again.
Yeah, she says that she sent to Taryn that I want to crawl up the stairs, or would you keep me if I crawl up the stairs? And she thinks that she missent it to Xaden, which could possibly be. And then later we get, I feel like shit. Xaden is slowly losing pieces of himself, and we're 1,000 miles from Besgaiath. Yet that steady beat makes everything somehow tenable. It feels so right to be in his arms. And he responds, because it is. She didn't say that out loud. And she's like, what the fuck? Now, do we think his signet is growing? Maybe he is a full intrinsic and his just started out as intentions and grew into something more? Or is it like his when he first channeled, he said, I feel like my shadow's power has grown. Is it like that?
Yeah. I would think that would make more sense.
I do think it's the venom thing, personally. I don't really know what it could be, but I think it could be either. But I think it's the venom channeling that is making his signet grow.
I wish we knew more about the intrinsic abilities.
Yeah.
I hope in one of the hidden vaults or something, there's like we actually did allow people like this to live for a little while and didn't kill them on sight.
Ooh, that's so crazy to me. I mean, I get it, but also, like, Jesus.
All right. Well, they do get some rest, and Takaris and Halden go ahead of them, and the dragons fly out later. And in the middle of this fight, I guess, or they said as soon as they leave the continent, they lose the ability to talk to each other.
Except for Violet.
And yet, Violet can still talk to Taryn. Violet can still talk to Andarna. And Andarna can still talk to Taryn. So it made me wonder, why can't Sigale still be in this and Xaden?
I'm also confused. It's really interesting that she can talk to Andarna and Taryn when we're supposed to think that there's no magic that would allow this to happen. And
except
none
for
of the
the
other
runes.
writers. Yeah, except for possibly the runes. And none of the other writers can talk to their dragons, and the dragons can't talk to each other, which is like really dangerous for them to be out there doing that, because that's a huge boon to their operation. It has helped them out of a lot of tricky situations.
It also makes you
wonder. But that doesn't make
wonder
sense.
how they communicated if they never... You would think that there would be a backup communication style. I'm just saying. But what were you...
That is exactly that same thing. That makes no sense, because any animal, they've got some sort of communication with their fellow animals. That doesn't make sense that they would have zero communication.
Body language, meows. I mean, cats develop meows just to talk to us. So
Can dragons still talk to each other, just not in their mind? You'd think they'd be able to, like, run.
Yeah.
Well,
And then-
Taryn does bark.
Yeah.
Taryn does bark at everybody to get their attention.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But I
wish
think
I could have seen that.
I do think it's interesting that it's only Taryn and Violet. Some people think that it might be Violet that is
Her second signet.
is fueling this. I haven't seen anybody mention the daggers, which is
Interesting.
yeah. And some people think it's Indarna, who's
Yeah, Mira
maybe
asks if it's Andarna.
yeah, maybe she's she's able because she's the special seventh den. Maybe she's able to continue to have the bonds.
Right.
But you would think that if it was Indarna, shouldn't Indarna be able to talk to all the dragons? Why is it just Violet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Second to last thing I'm going to say is Xaden at peace.
Yeah.
I can picture that. It's beautiful. Just him standing, looking at the ocean.
You're like, he's beautiful in my mind.
He is beautiful in my mind. We got white sand. I'm thinking sunrise.
So could he stay there and be safe?
That's what I was wondering too. Like, I feel so happy that he doesn't have to worry about any of that there.
Mm-hmm.
They should just run away.
It's why Violet reconsiders the deal for the first time ever. She realizes, he's peaceful here. He doesn't have to worry about channeling. They can have it all, right?
Yeah. Yep. And I think he's thinking about it too. He's looking out into that ocean like, I need some time to myself, because he's thinking about how he's going to have to return to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like enjoying his moment of peace.
I think it's interesting, though, that at the end he says, there's no power, no lure, no taunting reminder that I can save everyone if I just reach for it and take what's offered. It's only peace. Now, Xaden in Fourth Wing Chapter 7, he says, I can't save everyone, especially not someone who isn't willing to work to save themselves. And in Iron Flame Chapter 28, he says, this is war. People die in wars. So if you're asking if I'd rather your people die than mine, then obviously my answer is yes. It's foolish to think we can save everyone. We can't. So I think it's interesting that throughout this whole series, he's been like, I can't save everyone. I have to do what I can. And now this Venin power has kind of sort of been taunting him with the possibility of being able to save everyone.
And I wonder if the sage has still been getting to him. Maybe the sage said something to him that was like, hey, we can end it right here. You can come with us and it'll be over, Yeah.
And I think Rebecca Yara said this, but she was like, the Venin power is supposed to be very indicative of addiction.
Right. Yeah.
I just have to talk about Garrick and Imogen real quick.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love them.
I love them.
Yes.
The fact that, Ridoc does say, oh, Imogen's gonna love class today, and then somebody slaps him in the head. We don't know who. They never say
saw
who.
that. Yeah. I noticed that.
And then Garrick calls out Second Squad, and Imogen's like, you don't want these hands put on you. You don't want anything to do with these hands. And Garrick's like, why don't you come put them on me? I was like,
yeah.
Garrick, yes.
Okay, any last thoughts about where we're ending off?
One last thought I just saw.
Gosh. Okay.
So when they go to Anka, they leave Indarna back at Samara, and they say that they can only be separated for 12 hours before she starts to feel the effects of separation. And then it's 3 to 4 days before it may become fatal.
Uh-huh.
Where was this at Montserrat? She left Indarna back at Basgiath, and she was there for at least 4 days.
When she's at Montserrat, is Indarna still a baby?
Sleeping?
She is. She's a baby, yes.
That's my theory for why it worked. That's my theory.
Like, that was when she was sleeping?
Not when she was sleeping.
My thought is that maybe because Feathertails have a little more power, a little more magic, unstable magic, maybe it worked. But
I can see that.
I think it's probably an oversight.
Okay. I saw it and I was like, is this a misstep?
I could see it being an accident.
And the last thing I'm going to say is I love the little Easter eggs that Rebecca Yarros puts in there for us readers, where she's like, I want to read it all instantly, yet simultaneously limit myself to a single line, because that's how we all felt about Onyx Storm.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, we need to make it last. And then in Iron Flame, she also says, she's like, I read this whole book and I'm left with more questions than answers. And I was like, oh, she must have read a Rebecca Yarros book. That's what.
Again, she's very self-aware. All right. Any last thoughts?
Mm-mm. And mine was Mira kicking Drake. That was my big. And just all of the Andarna and Taryn stuff was fucking hilarious. Telling her to get up
great.
off her tail off the ground.
Yes, the dad.
Where do you think you are? The Vale?
And at some point, doesn't she like basically tell him to fuck off? She's like, whatever. I'm gonna eat that fucking tortoise. And he's like, see, this is why we don't eat tortoises.
And I think there's one where he's like, I'm not even dignifying that with a response.
Yeah, no, he's the sassiest father figure I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Love him.
Well, hopefully we have more of that in the next section. We hope everyone enjoyed this episode. We'll be discussing Onyx Storm chapters 23 through 27 next episode. New episodes drop every week, and don't forget to check out last season's discussion on the Zodiac Academy, available now.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. That like and follow are super important for us to continue to bring you new episodes each week, so please, please, please do so. You can also support us by joining us on Patreon. Thank you for listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. We'll see you next week.
Happy reading, listeners. Don't stay up too late.